Hello, I'm glad you're here. So today we're in the chapter 2 of Philippians, verses 25 through 30. And it says, "Yet I supposed it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier, but your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants. For he longed after you all, and was full of heaviness, because that he had heard that you had heard that he had been sick. For indeed he was sick nigh unto death, but God had mercy on him, and not on him only, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. I sent him therefore the more carefully, that when ye see him again ye may rejoice, and that I may be the less sorrowful. Receive him therefore in the Lord with all gladness, and hold such in reputation, because for the work of Christ he was nigh unto death, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me." So yesterday we talked about Paul and Timothy, and how he saw Timothy as his son in the faith. And now we're seeing him talk about Epaphroditus, who he sees as a brother in Christ, who he sees as a brother in the faith. So he talks about him as risking his life for the gospel. Paul thought of him as a brother, and as someone that was not afraid to sacrifice for the gospel. And he was sick, he was close to death, and instead of worrying about himself, he was worried about his family and his church family, worrying about him. And so he had that servant's heart, and he was thinking of others more than himself. And even though that he was miserable and so sick, but it was distressing him, because he didn't want, I guess, the other ones worrying about him. And I know when my husband was in the Air Force, he was stationed in Spain, and so we lived there for 2.5 years, and that's where we had Justin. And I know when I was pregnant, here I am going to be a young mom, and I'm pregnant, and I'm over there all by myself with my husband, and I don't have my mom, I don't have my dad, my brother, I don't have my family with me to go through this pregnancy with me. And as much as that hurt me, it hurt me even more, because I thought, well, now I'm worried about them, because if I feel this way, they probably feel this way, that they're missing out on, Justin and my pregnancy. And, so I kind of get where he's coming from about worrying about someone else, but maybe worrying about you. So that's where we were when, and my mom ended up coming over when I had Justin. So I still had someone there. I had my husband, but, you always want your mom. So I get where he's coming from about, thinking about somebody else, even though you're going through your own things, but you don't want them to worry about you. So he was thinking about someone else, others, and not wanting them to worry. And he talks about in this passage, Timothy and Epaphroditus, and he talks about how their willingness to serve, and they're willing to serve everywhere, anywhere, and they've sacrificed. They have left their home, they've left everything to go and serve and minister to, and they had that willingness to follow God's call. And so they were there for Paul. They were there alongside him, helping him. And it was time for Epaphroditus to go back and be with family and friends and the church family. And so that was going to be of comfort to both of them, because he was going to get to see them again and be with them and serve. And so all three of these men had such a servant's heart and a willingness to serve. They gave up, they sacrificed, they gave up things that maybe they would have been comfortable in. We talked a little bit yesterday about Paul, what he left as being a Hebrew of Hebrews. We may not have talked about that yet. That may be in the next one. I don't know. They're starting to run together. But when I think about these, before Paul became a Christian, his life before, he was a prominent person, but he was persecuting Christians. And I'm sure he had money and everything that he wanted. And so they gave up these things to serve and to follow God. And they had a love for God and others that they wanted to share him with all, that all should come to know Christ. And for them to give up so much to share Christ, that says a lot about Christ. That says a lot about, what they want everyone to have, what they want everyone to have that they have in Christ. So, we talked about feeling unqualified, and, these guys may have at one time felt unqualified, but they followed after God. They had that servant's heart, and they were willing to be that humble servant and go where God wanted them to go and just follow his leading. So I hope that you guys have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Thanks.